November 2015 to order. I believe the sequence of events here is the minutes are read and approved, and then we have announcements before we jump into the meat of the agenda. So the minutes of the October 1st meeting are in our books. Any comments? I have one minor one. At the top of the second page, my name is misspelled. Correct that for posterity. Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, look for a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item are announcements. Do we have any announcements?
No.
From staff. Okay, items to be heard. We have 6 items this evening, the first of which is Hope Lutheran Church Master Signage Plan, and that is being reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, you have a presentation?
Yes, thank you. Tim Brown, Planning and Development. Little background on this. What they want to do is they want to put a second name on their monument sign. Well, in order to do that, we changed the code a few years ago. If you occupy multiple bays in a plaza, then we wanted to give you consideration for that. You know, it's just not one bay per tenant, you have multiple bays. So you can add a name to, because the monument sign typically, you have to put the name of the plaza and up to 2 anchor tenants. That's all that can go on the sign. And a lot of these plazas don't have any anchor tenants, so they're left with just the name of the plaza or just the name of the business. So in this case, which it's immediately following this item, they want to put their name up on the monument sign, and you can do that as if you have a master signage plan. So that's why we're here. They're applying for a master signage plan. This business has 3, they occupy 3 bays, and with the approval of the master signage plan, then they can put their sign there. So with that being said, this proposed master signage plan does meet all the requirements of a master signage plan in the Chapter 13 Scenic Corridor regulations.
Any of the members have a question any other questions for staff?
Do they currently have a monument sign?
They do.
They do.
It says
And
Hope.
that's the plaza?
Yes.
Item number 2 has some photographs.
Yeah, it has. It says Hope Lutheran Church.
The top half of that.
And the business.
Resort, resale?
Yeah, that's what they want to put on the sign. They occupy three bays in that plaza.
Resort, resale occupies 3 bays.
Yes. The church is the main tenant. They own the plaza, and the church is located there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of staff? Do we have an applicant here who'd like to make any comments? No comments? Okay. Okay, I think we're at the point of motion being appropriate.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve based on the recommendation of staff and that it meets all technical requirements.
You have a second?
I second.
Okay, properly motioned and seconded. Any further comments from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 2 is related, and it is, I believe, the approval of the actual sign that Tim described. So, Tim, do you have any further comments?
The only comment, with the approval of the master signage plan, this proposed monument sign is in compliance with the scenic corridor requirements.
Very good. Do we have any further questions of staff? Any comments from the public? No? In that case, a motion would be appropriate.
I'd like to move we approve the new monument sign for Hope Lutheran and Resort Resale as presented by Tim Brown.
Do we have a second? Going once.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and seconded. Any further comments? In that case, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3 is parking, heating, I think I'm on the right spot, am I? Yes. Parking, heating, cooling, and refrigeration building sign to be presented by Tim Brown.
Thank you. This is a request for a 126.65 inch by 36 inch for a total of 31.65 square feet building sign. It's located at 4942 US Highway 98 West. Since they have identified that these are dimensional boxes, they are three-dimensional, this sign is in compliance with the Chapter 13 Scenic Corridor requirements.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
We keep having this three-dimensional display box sign situation brought up. We know that 3/8 of an inch embossing is required for it to meet the three-dimensional qualifications, and I may have missed it, but I don't see where that's stated anywhere on here. I see dimensional, but I don't see any specifics that tell me that what we're looking at here are all raised, embossed letters that are in fact three-dimensional and have a minimum height, raised height of 3/8 inches.
Yeah, you're right. I guess I dropped the ball on that. He indicated to me over the phone, because we were talking back and forth, and because initially it didn't look like they were going to be three-dimensional. It was just a flat sign box. So, but he did indicate to me that these would meet that requirement, but it didn't get on the graphic. And that was my fault.
So these aren't ovals with a flat face on them?
No, they're not flat. They're dimensional. It looks like a channel letter.
Is there anywhere that we could add a note saying, requiring for them to be?
Yeah, you can add a you
We
can
put
add a
that in the
condition
motion.
when you make your
Put that
motion.
in
You
the
can add a
same motion that you
condition
had last time.
that it has a minimum 3/8 rise.
Tim, does this shopping center have a master signage plan?
No, this is in Santa Rosa Plaza.
It's in the minutes.
They don't. Okay, this is
The third or fourth month in a row we've had signs there because they don't have a master signage
I've asked the
plan.
same question every time. Sorry. Okay.
Seems like they would.
I'm curious. Is the applicant here in the audience? You mind coming forward for a few questions? Is the intent really to have? I don't know if these are logos that have been kind of stuck onto the thing. But I mean, I kind of question whether a lot of the text on here is actually even legible.
Well, we're limited by the square footage a little bit. The customer was adamant about not, obviously there was a budget constraint as part of it as well. Let me answer the first concern that you guys had. The embossment of Parker, it's a ½ inch, so it exceeds a 3/8 inch.
Okay.
As far as the rest of it, yeah, it is. It's a digital print on effectively. That's what the colors are coming from.
And sir, sorry to cut you off. Could you give us your full
Sure, I'm
name?
sorry. Adam Kimball with Advanced Sign Solutions.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the Parker letters are raised. What about the rest of the sign? All of it?
Yeah, it's not a, normally it would be a pan face type sign, but it's not, they're not very large because of the space requirements. So the Parker are raised, and that was, in talking with Tim, that was the part that was the most concerning, to have some dimension to it. As far as depth of the cabinets, I mean, they're the same as a channel letter that you would put on there. And yeah, the Parker is what is raised.
So the word train, for example?
Those are not,
is
no.
raised.
Those are small. Those are too small to be embossed.
So nothing else is raised?
Yeah, I mean,
That just doesn't meet the code.
thank you. And you hang out there, but my next comments are directed to the other members up here. My challenge with this is that I think were there a master signage plan, I think we'd be looking at probably the business name, maybe an indication of air conditioning, something like that. But I think that although there's not a master signage plan, this strays pretty far away, and this plaza is now beginning to stray further and further away from the intention of the sign regulations. That we've got signs that are absolutely no relationship to each other, 50 feet from each other across the front of a building in the same plane.
I agree 100%.
This is becoming a problem.
Plus, you have 3 entities that are being,
That's a good point. I mean,
it's not, I mean, Parker.
Train and Carrier are not businesses in this plaza.
That's correct.
Um,
And we do have this box sign. These are box signs, and we've had others that we've not approved or required that they be raised. Any part of the sign can't be a box sign, is my understanding of the code.
And I think, if I could make a comment real quickly, I think that you'll hear things referred to like a cloud sign. And so if you go through the public shopping center, you'll see that it appears to be, they're not channel letters, they're a single cabinet in some respects. So I think there's some clarification that might need to be provided there. From my perspective, when we provide the application, obviously we try to have conversation with the county, because I don't want to be sitting here and not getting approved. Customers already waited quite a while. And to let you all know, I approached, Tim had told me this was the 3rd or 4th sign for that plaza. We haven't done any of the others. I approached the owner of the plaza to just, hey, we should do a master sign plan while we're here. So it hasn't been receptive to that. So the only objection I'll raise, and I'll sit down, is, the customer's been waiting for some time. If we need to put some conditions on it, and we can create, those faces can be adjusted to be pan-faced. The writing on some of it is too small to be embossed itself, but we could create additional dimension to it. Or I could require that they go with channel letters, which that'll be a budget thing for them. But I would really appreciate a decision from the standpoint of, so that we can move forward.
I have a question. I have a problem with both the train and carrier pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the pieces that are definitely not allowed by code. But if we lost those and the Parker proper sign had the required embossing, is that realistic with your customer?
I mean, I think,
Or is train and carrier paying for that sign, thus their owning?
no, I mean, they're a licensed distributor of train and carrier. And so that's part of the recognition. Parker is a business that's been in business for 30 years down in Panama City, and they've expanded into this area. But it's more about that recognition for those. They're licensed distributors for them.
I just think that if you wouldn't have the train or the carrier, I mean, the Parker sign is really small for the box. And it just gets lost. It's not really, doing the owner any good in terms of advertising.
And this is not your problem, and it's an aside, but there are signs in this complex that you cannot read at all because of things like that. They're so small, and I still have no idea what those stores are because I haven't gotten out of my car and walked up and tried to read it. But to me, it just doesn't meet the code, and since there's no deviation request, couldn't approve it if we wanted.
Okay, well, it sounds like we've arrived at the substance of a motion.
I mean, is there a way to condition it to meet code? I don't know enough about signs to figure out.
You could place conditions
You'd
on
have to
it.
condition it to channel letters. Channel letters would definitely meet the code.
But that would change the whole sign,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
and we don't even know what we're looking at that point.
And their logo, it wouldn't be like a logo, it would be more like just, Parker letters.
Well, I'm not sure that particular part would need to be changed. I mean, from the conversation, it sounded like it'd be the other part that doesn't meet the dimensional requirement. Those would have to be channel letters. And I think that's the only way it can be consistent with the code, is to be channel letters.
Are we allowed to have 3 companies?
Yeah, how does
Up
that-
There's
on
no
the-
prohibition on what the sign says. Our code is is content neutral. As long as you meet the size requirements, the material requirements, and the dimensional requirements, because it says right in there, it has to have 3 dimensions. And there are cabinets that do. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these cabinets are built to look like a channel letter. They are dimensional.
I know, but even if you left Parker, Parker the same with a logo, going around, and if you made channel letters on the other two, I don't think it would look right. I mean, you just have to redesign the whole thing.
It would look
In
a
order
lot
to
different.
work, it would be different, but it just seems like it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be aesthetically right.
So each letter has to be channeled individually, right?
Yeah, or reverse, one of the two. I mean, it can be on a raceway, because typically they're either on a raceway or they're mounted to the wall. But either way, it's a channel letter. It's either lit or unlit, but we allow channel and reverse channel letters. If it's going to be lit, it has to be one or the other. Internally lit. But the whole idea and the problem we've been having with these boxes is it has to have 3 dimensions. It cannot be 2-dimensional. And there are these boxes that are 3-dimensional.
And it's okay for them to have what appears to be 3 separate signs?
Yes, as long as it doesn't exceed the overall size, because we have height, width, and the overall square footage. And this meets all of
It can be as
that.
many individual parts.
As long as it's connected, which this is. I mean, you're only allowed 1 sign. But this is, as long as they're connected, we consider it 1 sign. But you couldn't have 3 separate signs. The code only says 1 building sign per tenant or per bay.
And it's considered connected even though the face of the signs aren't connected. It's only connected in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes it one sign.
Yeah, I think it's 3 different companies or corporations. It's 3 different signs.
Looks like it to me.
I mean, it has the appearance of 3 separate signs.
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, and I'm just trying to clarify this, you would leave the Parker sign the same, and then you would use channel letters for Carter and Train, and
Well, that would be consistent with the code.
right.
I'm not
but
saying
what
it would look right, but that would be consistent with the code.
Right, it could be consistent with the code, but then it's got to look right, and then I would think that Carter and Train, because they're larger and would be those with those that channel letters, they would be those 2 signs would be larger and would compete with the Parker sign.
Carrier is actually, the word carrier appears to actually be bigger than the word Parker.
And and with the channel letters it'd be even larger.
There's
So it would be awkward.
At the very beginning of the Scenic Corridor Design Standards, Section 13.03.00 says, signage should be unobtrusive yet visible and easy to read. I don't think this meets the easy to read.
And I have a question, just for my knowledge. This middle Parker sign, is that like an acrylic sign with the letters and I guess maybe even not, but hopefully the elements of the logo are raised, but it's all one piece of acrylic?
You'd have to ask him.
Is that how it works? We just can't tell much from the
I understand the ad stuff. It's a very common face of a sign that you see all over. It is one piece of acrylic or material, and then the components of it that are raised are called embossed. So from that, I guess your question, what was your question?
That's pretty much it. I was wondering just what it looks like, because all we're looking at is it's a flat picture here.
And which parts are embossed?
Well, the Parker. I mean, we're trying to represent. We're trying to represent. What we're trying to do is represent channel letters. I mean, the cabinets themselves are constructed the exact same way as a channel letter. That's why we actually. I mean, we didn't just do a rectangular cabinet. We did it in their logo, and that was, in talking with Tim, that was how we were trying our best to meet the customer's budgetary requirements and also meet the code. But it looks very similar to any of the other
Well,
cabinet
it
faces, et cetera, that you would
Similar
see.
to a box sign to me. I mean, it's very close to a box sign.
I would just have to say that, again, the train and the carrier are box signs which are prohibited. And if the Parker sign were in fact three-dimensional embossed and at a minimum of 3/8 inch, the only thing based on what's been presented tonight would be for us to condition the Parker sign only,
Okay,
non-compliant, the train and carrier sign, and that potentially could give you some idea on the building. But then you bring up the comment that Lourdes made, is the Parker sign, if it's by itself,
is it visible enough?
is it visible? Is it easy to read?
Yeah.
Is it doing what its intent is?
Well,
And
It is.
I think what I would say over here in the discussion, I mean, what I can do easily enough, first off, many of these other shopping centers, including what a master sign plan would say for this one, you'd have channel letters at a minimum height. Those are similar. We know what's acceptable. We've done those before. Whether or not you agree that train and carrier should be on there, I mean, that's obviously your decision. I think it is an important part of their marketing aspect of their company. It's how they are recognized, and it is an important branding. But perhaps that can be done another way. I would recommend, and I will recommend to the customer, if you don't find this appealing, which to be fair, we tried to expand it anyway, but that's their logo and that's sized how they want it, to take the Parker, do channel letters, the channel letters that are acceptable throughout the county. And then the only aspect is creating the logo around it in some manner, and perhaps that can be done via channel arrows or something of that, which we talked about. And again, the budget constraint is what the customer's going to have a challenge with.
I wonder if the name Parker in conventional channel letters with this
Logo,
this
yeah.
logo, I mean, that's a pretty recognizable logo. If I saw the word Parker in big letters and then the logo, with the sign just like you've described it, I would recognize it. But I mean, somebody who sells a certain type of shoes in their store can't start putting the brands of all the shoes on the face of the building as a logo. I mean, that's clearly not the intent. The regulations are intended to prohibit that.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that. He doesn't want to put just train up there because that's not what this company's name is. He doesn't want to put just carrier up there. But I think the intent of the regulations is that signage be simple, easy to read, unobtrusive yet visible and easy to read. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward statement. I don't think this sign meets that intent. So I think we then get to the.
I'd like to make a motion, we decline the submission because it's not consistent with signage code.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Is there no way to condition it so that we don't have to have them wait another month prior to hearing?
Oh, we haven't.
That's almost a whole new redesign.
I know.
That's
That's where I was trying to take you. And I keep hearing that
Can we send
it's not gonna be
something?
happening without train and carrier and.
Well, no, I think they can.
Well, it just Robert's rules. We're now in a moment where we're not supposed to have back and forth discussion. I think you said.
And I'm sorry, just real quickly, if I can ask staff, Tim and Mac, so if we deny this rather than continue it, are they going to have to pay an additional fee to resubmit?
Oh,
Yes.
So that might be a consideration for the board as well.
Okay, so at the moment we could withdraw the motion, withdraw the second, and we could start again.
Can I have one?
Is that
Yes.
To
Okay.
continue instead of deny.
And I have one other question.
or amend the motion? Yes, I'm sorry.
I know we've had before that they've been able to show us something that night and maybe just put it off and,
Staff
go
review,
through
yeah.
the rest,
I,
Well, no, I mean, if he has a design he can show us tonight, that's how he would redesign it, that we could condition it on being like that.
Okay.
if he can do that
If
tonight.
he
The
can do-
suggestion
yeah.
of having the logo and
Right.
Parker with channel letters, I mean, to me, that,
Okay.
I can visualize that, and I think that would look right.
Well, if we were to table this, go on to the next items, if this gentleman, the applicant were willing, and he could sketch something out and maybe get some agreement with Tim that it meets the could we do that? That way we could still
That
dispose
would-
of it.
that would
That
be
way they can
acceptable.
do it, yeah.
Okay, so smoothest way to do this is to withdraw the motion in the second? If that's-
Yes.
Okay, are we getting nodded heads?
Yes.
Yep, okay, so we're back to square, we don't need to vote on that if they've withdrawn
No,
the
we
motion.
can just push it to the end of the agenda if that's what you would like to do.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, sir. I don't know if you caught everything we were saying.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. That's great. I can dimensionally draw it out real quick and have you the measurements, and you can make
That'd be
that
great.
call. Okay?
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we are just tabling this for
To the end of
little
the
bit-
agenda.
end of the agenda. Okay, very good. Okay, that brings up the next item, which is item number 4, Soldiers Canteen. I guess FK is formerly known as Oyster Bar. Also by Tim Brown.
Thank you. This is a request for the addition of 3,270 square foot. Well, let me back up here. They're requesting the addition of 3,276 square feet to an existing restaurant, which was the Spicy Noodle in Inlet Beach, on 1.27 acres with a future land use of neighborhood infill and an Inlet Beach neighborhood plan designation of neighborhood commercial. The Spicy Noodle closed and they've gutted the building. You know, they sold off all the equipment and everything. So now they're wanting to take that building, add 3,276 square feet to it, and create a new restaurant they're calling Soldier's Canteen. In terms of the code requirements, it is in compliance with all the scenic corridor requirements, Munsell and all the other requirements.
Quick question.
Sure.
It's in 2 different places. This is a minor point, but in case it needs to be accurate. In one place it says FKA Oyster Bar, and one place it says FKZ.
That was a mistake
So
I
is that
made.
is that all the name? There's
It's
no
formerly
bar?
known as.
It's a formerly known as.
Yeah, anytime they change the name,
Okay.
we have to show formerly
big
known
deal.
as.
Okay.
Yeah, I hit the wrong
The
letter
sign says
there.
Soldiers Canteen, so all that stuff isn't on the sign. Yeah.
Okay.
Is the square footage they're adding going up as opposed to adding it to the footprint?
No, they're making the footprint bigger.
Is it in the back? So they're basically adding the kitchen.
Yeah, it's
What
all
they're
that hatched L shape.
So the addition looks like it maybe,
It looks like,
so they're wrapping around.
It's
the
like it's all
existing
around
building.
it.
yeah, they're expanding.
Yeah, they're making
See right here?
the
I think this
footprint
shows
bigger.
the old one.
Oh, okay, so the wrapping, the new is wrapped around the old. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, porch on the front, probably, that's new. Yeah, that looks like the existing building right here. Okay, any further questions for staff from the,
I don't know if this is for staff or the applicant. Is all the rooftop equipment completely enclosed in these rooftop?
No, it's going to be in the back, it's going to be at the rear of the building, and it's going to be screened either through fencing or landscaping. There's a note on the landscape plan.
But rooftop is what I was referring to.
Nothing on the roof. It's going to be in the rear of the building.
The metal roof covers the whole building.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure.
okay, Tim, are we approving any site signage at this time, or just the building signage, or no signage at all?
No signage at this
all.
time.
Okay,
Um,
so landscaping and the architecture,
Yes.
okay.
Is any of this landscaping anything that we're looking at taking out of the code?
I don't believe so. I think they're pretty much using,
Ponds, sable palms.
There were a few things that I didn't, Asian jasmine and, I mean, it's a gorgeous landscaping plan, don't get me wrong.
well, I don't think the Asian jasmine is native, but it is in the code at the moment.
Japanese yew, I think that's there.
Looks like pretty durable material.
And a lot of it.
Yep.
Looks
Yeah, they're
great.
putting in a lot of landscaping.
Yeah, looks really nice and lush from the drawing.
Yeah, that was important apparently to the developer. They wanted it to really look nice in terms of the landscaping.
The whole thing looks nice.
Better than what's there, for sure.
Oh, God, world.
Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant? Any comments from the public? Very good. I think we're at the point of a motion here.
I would move approval.
Sign and seal.
Very good. We have a second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comments among the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, brings us to item number 5. Porter Paints Building Sign. Also by Tim Brown, busy man.
Surprise, surprise. This is a request for a 32 by 89.5 inch, 19.83 square foot building sign. It's located at 12555 Emerald Coast Parkway in Miramar Beach. They had previously come before this board a few years ago and got their sign approved, and now they're changing it, so they're back. But this sign is in compliance with the Chapter 13 Scenic Corridor requirements.
And this is a pretty good example of the logo and sign that's in compliance with the spirit of the code. Do we have any questions of staff? Is an applicant here today? Would you like to come forward? Okay. Okay. Any comments from the public? Ready for a motion?
I move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 6, I guess question for the Parker building sign. Sir, we can take the next item. It may take us a few minutes on this one, so if you're ready now, we'd be glad to.
I guess I want to make sure I haven't spoken with Tim yet, but I
Okay.
provide a visual. Thank you. Thanks again. That's Adam Kimball. The thought process is to remove the carrier and train, because I'm hearing that that's not acceptable. And then to basically create channel letters. Everything fits within the same dimensions. I'm not going to see it. But channel letters that are that 10 to 12 inch height, which is a very common height that we use. And that will sit, that's what will be dimensional across the center of the sign. And then I would like to try to incorporate the rest of their logo. Granted, it'll be smaller compared to what it is now, but to incorporate the rest of the dimensional, not in a cabinet, but in a actually dimensionally routed sign that we'll make. So it'll look very similar to that from a two-dimensional standpoint, but from a dimensional standpoint, what you'll have are 10 to 12 inch high channel letters in the center. Cabinet of the train and the carrier will be removed, and then the Parker sign, Parker will be kind of, call it resting on that, on a dimensional backer that's going to have the arrow. I'm trying to think of how better to describe it. But.
Tim, just so I'm not trying to wave the book around here, could you show the gentleman the last item we just reviewed and approved? Oh, here you go. He's pretty good. Sir? Adam, is it? Yeah. I guess this is the way we conventionally will see a logo, and so
Okay.
I'm only speaking for myself, but if the rest of the committee agrees, if their logo, the logo just as it appears in the application, were in a device like this, and then the name Parker written in true channel letters, that is something that we see a lot that does meet the spirit of the code, and then their company's name will be.
Is that a cabinet? No, not.
These are channel letters.
Oh, what is the logo?
The logo, I believe, is allowed to be, the language in there allows the
Yeah, I
logo
don't
itself
know
to be presented that way, I believe.
Yeah, I think that would look really good for your sign.
What's,
And you would have the logo the same size that you have it right now. and
There's
then
mention
Parker would be larger.
of logos.
So it'd be
in-
more
what does it
readable.
say about logos?
Yeah, there's mention of logos in
Yeah,
here.
'cause it would be much more visible from the road
Yeah.
and also less obtrusive.
I'm sure.
Is there the name of their business Parker Heating, Cooling, and Refrigeration?
Yes.
Wow, that's a long name.
Yeah.
I don't envy you your challenge.
This was a tough one.
Uh-huh.
Tim, do you know off the top of your head what the language about the logo is? I know I saw the word logo in here that describes.
I do not. Off the top of my head, I do not.
Okay.
But I've tried to, really make an effort that anything that's in a box be dimensional, because we do have some that aren't, and we're doing some code enforcement out there on some of those that are
Yeah.
out there currently.
Does anybody else remember seeing the?
I don't. I mean, I thought all of it had to be.
I didn't bring my code with me.
Even the, like Chick-fil-A sign that we had them change from a box sign, their logo to a.
Yeah, and I did that with Starbucks too, because Starbucks kept telling me they couldn't do it. And I'm like, Chick-fil-A did it, so I know you all can do it, because they do make those to look like a channel letter. And that's what Chick-fil-A and Starbucks is. But Starbucks must have told me half a dozen times, we can't do that. I'm like, if Chick-fil-A can do it, you can do it.
They call them a cloud sign, like the hair cutting place in the public shopping center. That's a cabinet that looks like channel letters. But I if you like that logo, I just assume the only part is, so what it would be is the Parker Heating and Cooling, or heating, it'd be that logo that you see there. And it would be moved to the left, and we would have the dimensional letters. It's
How is yours, Tom? Don't you have your logo?
The only
on
thing
your sign?
I logo is the wheel and the lightning, and it's all LED in a, I don't know how to put it, it's all, it's all in a channel cabinet, but that's the only way you can do that.
So it's like
Then
a
all of my other letters are individual,
channel.
channel letters. My understanding is if it is a piece of the logo, but it's not letters, it's visual, then it doesn't fall under the embossed category, and that's from when I went through it several times. So,
The challenge here is their logo has lettering on every element of it. I think that's
so that would have to be, that has to meet that embossed standard if it's lettering.
That's why I was trying to go for, could you
If it were
put
just
their
those
name?
arrows, if it were just maybe those arrows,
yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to represent.
maybe
Okay.
different. But
So you were doing that, but
I was
all
pulling,
within
so if you
one.
picture the sign, the picture that you see, picture those, like, almost like you're magnifying those letters out, except those will be the channel. And we'll just keep, because I can't go above 36 inches high. So effectively, the height of the logo behind it, that way I'm not duplicating Parker. And they can still have their heating and cooling there, but it's not gonna look exactly like the logo, but it's gonna be representative enough that I think they'll be okay with
But
that.
if you do a 3 foot high, 3 foot's pretty good size. You do 3 foot high, the round Parker deal, and then you have Parker out beside that is pretty easy to read, I think.
Yeah, but they probably want heating and cooling, right?
Yeah, it's part of their
So
logo.
could you do Parker and heating and cooling underneath in smaller letters?
I can-
They
I
want
mean, we're
refrigeration.
designing the whole thing.
No, it's
That's right, hey, you guys can come work with me sometime.
a part of it.
Good
It's a
ideas.
part of it.
We could, I guess if we can't dispose of it this evening, then we should, then maybe we continue it until the next meeting and get a revised.
Drawing actual.
Yeah, that you
Drawing.
could come up with. something.
And one thing we have encouraged other folks to do when we get into one of these, we had recently one that had to do with colors of canopies, and the applicant was encouraged to come back with more than one version so that there was a higher probability we would have one to approve at the following meeting. And I think our next meeting would be the first week of December.
I think it's December 1st, I believe.
Yeah.
First or second.
One other question, all I want to do is expedite, I know where you are.
No, it's the
Yeah,
third.
I mean, you guys, most of you run a business yourself. You,
If,
I mean, you understand the challenge of this.
Is
It's
that
not-
building designed so that your channel letters can be direct applied? Is that stucco facade on that?
It's a stucco facade, yeah.
Okay.
But it would
Is
be on a
Is
raised
the wiring
Yeah, it's already
above the
pre-wired.
raised ceiling behind it?
It's right in behind it.
Okay, so you have access to wire back there, and you
Yeah,
could,
well, yeah, I'll
you
have
could
it-
do it internally.
Yeah, the electrician will do all of that work, but yeah,
Okay.
that'll,
So, and again, I'm not trying to design it, but if you use lighted channel letters, Parker,
yep.
and heating and air conditioning in just small individual letters glued to the building.
And
however
I-
you do it,
that's-
Unlit.
Yeah, that's right.
Unlit,
They would be routed,
I
they would
mean,
be
I'm
dimensionalized.
trying to think budget, but yet meets the spirit of the code and give your guy a good looking sign and serve the public because they know that's who that occupies that space.
Which also serves him,
Which serves him, I
or
mean,
her,
we're-
whoever it is.
we have a lot of bases to kind of hit
Absolutely.
here. But,
Yeah,
We approved the Figure Way a couple of months ago, okay? And Figure Way is exactly what you're talking about, where there is a second component of their logo that's encouraging fitness that we did in a routed dimensional. It's not lit. The channel letters are lit, and that's what's the largest, but and that's, I'd welcome that, and
I think
I will
we
convince the
talked about a whole
customer.
new design.
Yeah. So we,
Yeah.
spirit, the
But
sentiment is we can continue it. Okay.
if you could bring
Let's
us a
get that in
couple
form of a
of,
motion.
It's
Design.
December 3rd.
December 3rd? Okay. So, a motion to continue this until December 3rd meeting would be appropriate.
I would move just what you said, a motion to continue until the December 3rd.
and I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item number 6, I believe that's our workshop.
Yes.
Yes. So,
And for each of you, I passed out 3 items before the meeting. One of them is just, I think Lourdes revised her colors. That's one of the handwritten sheet. And I put it down there for Tim as well. And then David had suggested some changes to the language of the code, though it's the very small printing. His changes are in blue. And then you have another one that's just the changes that I've been using to track the discussions that we've been having. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think David only suggested changes having to do with how it would handle colors. Is that right?
that is correct, and I can actually, if you'd like, I can explain them. There's two areas I changed. Okay, if I could draw your attention to the section on colors, I think it is 13.03.02, architecture, and it's paragraph number 3, titled Colors.
Do you have a page?
It's page number 15.
Yeah.
15 of 64? or
That's it,
all the
yep.
same?
Okay, and so the first thing I did was struck primary fluorescent colors are not permitted, accent fluorescent colors are not permitted, etc. And I actually moved that. I felt like the way the paragraph was constructed, it was confusing as to what the difference between primary and accent colors were. So I took that section and created 2 new paragraphs below the opening description of what colors are approved. And I added the statement under primary colors that there shall be a maximum of 1 primary color per building. And my intention there is based on the few of the projects we've looked at. More than one member of this board has expressed a concern about the number of colors that we are seeing and the combinations thereof. And to me, when I see primary color, primary has a pretty specific meaning, that it's 1. So I'm proposing that we identify 1 primary color per building and that then any other colors would be accent colors. The accent, I left the existing language of fluorescent colors are not permitted, neon tube or fiber optics, trim, and accents are prohibited. And then I've added the language, use of intense or contrasting accent colors to draw attention to the building is strongly discouraged and may be disapproved. Where canopies, awnings, balconies, porches, decks, doors, windows, shutters, or other architectural elements are not the same color as the primary color, they shall be considered to be an accent color. The number of accent colors permitted shall be limited to the minimum appropriate to the architectural character and form of the building. And that was all I did with that. Then the other modification I'm proposing is under heights of buildings, that we clarify the language. The paragraph currently reads minimum 12 feet to eave, maximum height per the Walton County Land Development Code, section 5.00.06. Height of overhead canopies are not regulated by these standards, nor is the minimum building height related to canopy height. Cupolas, towers, and spires, the way it reads today is cupolas, towers, spires, etc. are allowed and may extend an additional 20 feet above roof lines or allowable height, but they shall be non-leasable and non-habitable. And what I've proposed that we modify is the phrase be cupolas, towers, and spires, drop the etc. And then add the phrase to the end of the sentence. It says, so they should be non-leasable, non-habitable, and then the new phrase is, and shall be limited to a maximum of 20% of the building footprint for structures up to 10,000 square feet, to 15% of the building footprint for structures between 10,001 and 20,000 square feet, and to 10% of the building footprint for structures 20,001 square feet or greater. And what I'm after there is to make sure that a tower is in fact reasonably sized in relation to the building. I'm trying not to penalize small buildings, so we give them 20%, but the very large buildings, 20,000 square feet is a pretty good sized building, and that we limit it to 10% of a building that size. So those numbers are, I won't say arbitrary, but I'd be willing for that to be simplified or changed, but I'm just trying to control the use of the tower elements. We're seeing more of those, and hate to see them get out of control.
May I ask?
Yes, sir.
Under B accent, last sentence, minimum appropriate to the architectural character and form of the building.
Yes.
Is there any way you would suggest we could quantify that, or is it going to remain subjective, which I thought was part of what we were trying to move away from?
Understood. I'm hoping that means something to the designers.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be my hope, but I will use as two examples. And Madam Attorney, is it okay for me to make mention of specific projects?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's fine.
The storage project, the large storage building we recently reviewed and approved, to me, the architectural, and I felt like the discussion that we had about it, the architectural character did not justify the rather elaborate color scheme that was presented on that building. I think that the intention of the elaborate color scheme on that building was to draw attention to the building in an inappropriate way. It's basically a big box with a few embellishments, and I think probably 2 or 3 colors would have been plenty.
I think 3 is the average.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's about right.
For a house.
The Hardee's project that we looked at similarly had a lot of colors proposed on it, and a lot of, I'll use a technical term, doodads tied to it, and the doodads were different colors. And I think at that point that's getting away from the intention of the code, that we're after something that's unobtrusive. I think those are the words in the code. And so, if there's a project that has like the project, Soldier's Canteen, there's a lot of different elements on that. There are railings, porches, not balconies, but shutters and all these kind of things. So that project, 4 or 5 colors may be appropriate, but not on a building that's a big stucco box and there's just colors just to have colors.
I mean, even then, I think 3 colors is basically, unless you start changing materials too.
Yeah.
So.
That's a
But I mean, when you do talk about colors, I mean, you've got, we're accent, so accent, that's what, window frames, rails, canopies, everything. I mean, you've got a lot of pieces and parts there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm certainly open if the spirit of the discussion is to put a limit of 3, except in certain circumstances. I certainly would support that.
To me, it would be preferable to keep it subjective and depend upon, the design.
Well, I think we should
this
always
does.
keep it, flexible for us to, in order to, looking at the project, make a decision and be open to it. But in terms of generalities, you should contain them within three,
Yeah, I think if we want to massage this to,
three
Well,
colors.
yours is pretty subjective. Or is that what you're saying, Tom?
well, I think I've left it a little open.
No, I'm
Yeah,
saying
a little
it is
open-ended.
subjective because,
Yeah.
that's a decision that's gonna be made on a case-by-case basis, and I thought our intent was to get a little more concrete.
Yeah,
Okay. But in this particular case, I have to agree with David that, there are going to be complicated design
And-
programs
Yeah.
and real simple boxes, and
Yeah.
a simple box, you can only put so much lipstick on it. And
Definitely. I think what David's
Or what's
language
the
does though, is it does indicate that our tendency is to fewer colors.
Yeah, and my concern
Which
with
is a
having
good
it
thing, I think.
limited
Yeah.
to 3 is then does 3 make it so we're gonna have all of a sudden a lot more people coming to us asking because it's.
For a variance.
For a variance, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah, I think this should, and certainly interested in Jerry's input, basically puts the designer on notice that they need to be restrained. And Lourdes, I don't know if you read that, I think that sends a
Yeah.
signal.
Yeah,
Less is more.
Yeah.
And the more I don't know if the intent was to draw attention to the building, but I think having some savvy on understanding what multiple colors can do, it can really obviously make things look a lot busier.
Yeah, the TDC building with we had a lot of discussion about the colors on the trim, and I think a lot of us felt that it was getting excessive, and we didn't have anything to point at that said, hey, that's
right,
too much.
right.
Agreed.
So this language is to
I
give
like
us something to point at when we say that's enough.
I like that.
I think your suggested wording is good.
That was it for my stuff.
The one thing that I have to think about is that the 10% of 10, or the 15% of a 10,000 square foot building is a 1,500 square foot tower. That's more than a house sometimes.
Well, right now
Is
it's
that
not
a
limited,
lot?
yeah,
I mean,
so,
I
Or
think
of
it
multiple
seems,
towers,
yeah,
multiple smaller towers. So yeah, that's too much, because the intent is to limit it.
yeah. And again, I started off with the 20%. I'm thinking of a couple thousand square foot little building that might want
Right.
to do something architectural on it. We want to encourage that. But then I began to think about 10% or 20% of
Well,
a
I
Walmart would be a big tower.
I'm just saying that we need to think about it,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
carefully, because that is
Yeah.
open-ended, and I think, like the towers at Seaside are 200 square feet, and
Yeah.
it's a dimension for any size house
That's right.
to
yeah.
have, and it's the same dimension, so,
Oh,
Yeah.
instead
Now,
of
we
having
did-
it as a
the-
percentage,
uh,
instead of having it as a percentage, just say this is.
I'm
the
just
dimension.
questioning,
That's
whether
what you see more
that might be,
commonly as an
yeah,
architect.
yeah.
Well, Lourdes brings up a good point. The Seaside, the restriction on towers in Seaside actually has two different restrictions that work together. One of them is on the overall square footage, and then it has a maximum dimension on any one side.
Exactly,
And I think it's 200
because
square feet. but
it doesn't
12
allow
feet
for it to be
maximum
really
dimension,
long and
so it can
skinny.
be- Yeah, you can turn it and make it, it doesn't have to be square,
But it limits you as to how long
but you
you
can't
can
make it really skinny and really long and then block everybody's view behind you.
which changes the proportions.
Yeah.
So I think that, in a 10,000 square foot building, you might, like Colleen mentioned, you might have more than one tower
Yeah,
that might be allowable, and that would add to square footage. So it's just, how do you restrict that?
Yeah.
How do you,
well, so we may want to make sure this
Organize
language
that.
covers, you can have 2 smaller towers or 1 big tower, or 3 little tiny towers, but you can't have 3 big towers, so.
And limiting it on how for it to be on one side certainly would help.
Or, you know, a 10,000 square foot building.
So you may wanna
with
add-
4 towers, which in every corner.
Yeah, but I think if we were to say, maybe we would add the language, so, and shall be limited, instead of, and shall be limited to a maximum of 20%, we could say, and, total of all towers or towers, parentheses S, shall be limited to a maximum, something to say that it's a cumulative total.
I think we should think about it.
Oh man, I was gonna try to
You
push
wanted
through all
to
this
just-
tonight.
Yeah.
I had some ideas about how we could push through the colors.
You wanna put this to bed?
I want, yeah.
I think we can
We
do
only
the
have one
color,
more
we
meeting,
can, we
right?
can, we can
And then
approve
we
the
have to go back
colors,
again.
but.
Well, you are bringing up a whole new thing here, Dave.
Well, the colors, yeah, the colors I was trying to
I think
put a bow on the colors.
We're good with the color one.
yeah.
Aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I like that. I think
Can we
that's-
go through all the color part of it tonight and come back to this?
Sure. And if we pulled the
Yeah, I
tower
think
piece
we
out,
should
I'm
do
not,
that.
you're not gonna make me cry. This is, I was just trying
Or
to
just have
yeah.
one more meeting so
Okay.
that Mortis and Jerry can
get comfy on it.
think
Okay.
about that one thing, but if we can hammer all the rest of it out,
Good, yeah.
we know we're a few weeks away from, boom.
Lee,
Okay.
you also can think about it too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
She's
We can all think about it, but I'm not a designer or an architect.
You were just saying that you would put, and total of all shall be limited to a maximum of.
Yeah, some sort of language that got across that you could have 2 smaller towers or 1 larger tower, however many little towers. But you can't get around this by having multiple towers.
So if you had 3 and you were in a 10,000 square foot building, they could not exceed 2,000 square feet total.
That's, let's see, yes, 50, yes, that's right,
It just
yeah.
depends on the proportions of the tower, you know, you wanna make it. It's open-ended, that's the problem.
I have, well, let's see, we had Rosemary Point, we had, what was another, I think the storage building actually had a tower on it, on one corner of it. We did have a project come to us not long ago that was an existing tower that there were signs being put on it, and that's what started me thinking about
Retail
towers.
therapy.
Retail therapy had 4 signs on a tower.
By virtue of the way the code is written, aren't we gonna kind of suggest to people to do something, or designers to do something like a tower here and there? Because you gotta have
Well-
3 elevation changes going across your primary elevation.
Yeah, well, now keep in mind that the phrase cupolas, towers, spires, etc. are allowed, and I had a problem. I don't know how the word etc. got into the code. That's a pretty broad.
That's really broad.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I mean, that'd be like putting a word like doodad in there.
We always find fun things in the code, right, Mac?
I mean,
Yeah, I don't
you know,
think
us
the-
designers, Jerry and Lourdes, we can use words like doodad, but we don't want to release those words for indiscriminate
That's a very technical.
bandying about.
Et cetera is pretty scary,
Well-
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
The other thing
So,
is
yeah.
that I don't think we wanna encourage towers, you know?
Well, no, and so
I mean, it's just where it's appropriate, we don't want every building to have towers.
yeah. Well, the cupolas,
Or
towers, and
like
spires were
become
already in
something
there, and that's what I was
dynamic.
before it got out of control. I was trying to rein it in. So, but I'm very comfortable if we want to think about that for a while.
4 weeks.
4 weeks, yes.
That's it.
Yes, and no more. I mean, I guess another option, I don't know that taking cupolas, towers, and spires out would be, I think that takes away something that could be, on some projects, is a very nice,
Well, yeah, on an
I
axis.
mean, maybe we need to add
When
some
it-
language
when
about
it's
cupolas,
appropriate.
towers, and spires are allowed when appropriate or something.
I
you know,
think
in our-
another question might be, is 20 feet? Okay, that's 2 stories worth of tower on top
But a
of our
tower is a
50-foot
height, the
limit.
tower has to be tall, or else it's not a tower.
We don't see that many, though.
But the thing is,
They're that high.
it might be, you know, I like the wording where it's appropriate. So they have to how do you say?
Scale it.
They
Make
have
it
to
appropriate
scale it
scale.
and they have to, what's the word? They have to justify it, you know, to the board. here, I'm doing a tower because of this reason, because usually towers are prominent, sort of like parts of the building, and they're either, creating an entrance or
Yeah.
making a space or
The
doing
donut
something.
hole has their clear story that, off the top of my head, it looks like it probably had to get in under the tower requirement. It's a fairly tall structure, but it really makes the architecture of the building a lot nicer, both inside and outside.
Right.
Down to the east of there is, what's the name of, not 30, it's the other crossings at 30A. They have kind of a tower element around the breezeway that takes you to the rear parking lot, I think. And that's a nice feature on that building.
Right,
So-
I mean, that's justified.
Yeah.
So, see, that's what I'm saying.
But just some random tower
They
on a
might
big
have
box.
to justify it because or else, people are gonna put towers wherever.
Yeah.
And I think it's an element that has to be justified.
Okay. Does someone want to generate some language for next time? Lord. Okay. I think Colleen had a good idea. Let's move on to the colors.
What is this other little tiny stuff we've got?
Okay, so the one with the blue is David's changes.
That I just read.
And then the other one is the changes I've been tracking all
So
along.
all of this stuff. Okay.
So David's were just in addition, because I didn't have those.
Fortunately, I
So
came
we
with a
can-
full-size copy.
Yeah.
You
guys
can.
I didn't get both of them. We'll just keep both of them.
If, as a matter of fact,
If you want.
Oh, me too. Yay. I hope it's the most recent one.
If you look on page 15, and the one that has page 15, it's really about that section's on.
Are we moving on to colors, or do we still
I think,
have?
is everyone comfortable with that? Let's go on to the,
I'm not sure if everybody still has their spreadsheets. You may or may not, but
Is that this one?
it looks like this. Yeah.
I'm sure I still have that one.
If you'll find it helpful, I can make copies. If not, we can do this however you
Well,
guys.
I was going to throw out a general comment. Looking at, I lost track of the spectrum. We had one spreadsheet that had, did we have one sheet that had everybody's kind of comments compared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, Lourdes, you.
And looking, I can say, if it helps, looking at Lourdes's comments and Jerry's comments, I'm comfortable with those. I could live with those. So if we wanted to just say, drop my column and say, I'm okay with theirs, if that helps narrow us down and get us a step closer, I'm good with that. I think I was more conservative in most cases, not all, but in most cases.
Most you were.
So, so I just want the,
And I narrowed it down with my last one,
okay.
so,
Which is this handwritten?
the handwritten one, yeah.
I mean, I think although we have some, it looks like on paper we have significant differences, I think when you actually go through the colors themselves, the differences between our three selections are pretty subtle.
Right.
I was having issues on the ends
Yeah,
of those spectrums.
okay.
But we also have to note that, even though we have a color chart, we can deny a color if it doesn't work well with the building, or we can, there's a little bit of leeway for us within this, color chart.
Yes. I also don't want to end up in a lot of situations where we're making somebody go back when they've selected colors that are approved, I mean, that's fine sometimes, but if it's happening a lot, then we get into.
Yeah, but, you can't help it when people don't have taste.
Yeah. Well, now, one thing I'd throw out there is that we could, and this crossed my mind when I was, not to take us back into the comments that I just had, but you know, if we all agreed that the primary colors needed to be more restrictive and that the accent colors could be broader, then another thought I had was we could keep the primary colors, the existing list, and if that made everybody more comfortable with the broadest of the comments for the accent colors, we could actually have two separate lists.
See, that was what was this has been a long time now, but I remember sitting down with the book and I had to go, since we don't differentiate between primary and accent colors,
Right.
I had to look at every color and say, would I want that to be the majority of a building color? And most of mine that I said no, I would have been okay as an accent, but not as
I agree.
a primary.
And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me most of the deviations we've been getting have been for
Accent.
accent colors. That's sound accurate, Mac?
From what
Yeah,
I've seen.
canopies has been the big one.
And trim, and, you know.
I totally agree with that. I think the selection we had was good. I mean, the original was good. It was just that it was too limiting for accents. And I think if we took your suggestion and said, let's keep what we had as more or less as a primary base, and then added on to, like, we could, I don't know, if there's a rectangle that went around the existing selection, the original selection, that could be, okay, here's your accents, that could be allowed.
I think the way it's listed, it actually, in the code, it's actually is a written list of the colors.
It is.
So we would take the, so I think, Sydney, if this makes sense to you, maybe we'll just look at it next time as being presented this way. But if the colors paragraph read, for all new development, color drawings of the buildings, elevations, etc., shall be submitted, blah, blah, blah. The colors shall complement the design and not be so extreme that the color competes with the building for attention, period. So that's the introductory paragraph under 3.
Right.
And then the color shall be selected from the Munsell Book of Color. There would be one list under A, primary, which would be the existing list. And then under B, accent, there would be the broadest of the new list that we've
Right.
been working on.
No, I that makes sense to me. That would be an easy change.
What do you think, Lourdes?
No.
Hope that was
Well,
answering your question.
I think that's true. I
What's
mean,
that?
when I selected these colors, I mean, I just figured that the extreme colors would be the accent colors, and then the more subdued colors would be the primary colors. So
Yeah,
I think that would work.
The only, and I feel like we might have had a similar conversation at the very beginning of this process.
We did.
The only issue we may come up on a day-to-day basis in interpreting it is what is primary, what is accent, and how to differentiate it.
Well,
Well,
the
the
designer
thing-
would tell you, we could require the designer to tell you that. And that's one reason why I said one primary color.
Okay.
They can't play a game and say, oh, all these are primary and these are accent colors. They get
Okay.
one primary color.
Yeah, I mean, you stated that.
Right. That
Oh,
makes
yeah, that's
sense.
right. Why I did. As I was concerned that we were getting some of these color schemes, it's like, well, which,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can get one
Candy
of
cane,
those,
yeah,
You can
yeah.
have
Does
a couple
that
more
make
of
sense for
these.
you, Mac? I guess if they're limited to pick one as their primary color and the rest are accents.
Yeah, the more guidance you can give us,
Yeah.
the easier it will be. to
The one,
administer.
the one problem that I find with that is that if you define primary and accent colors, and you define what are the accent colors and what are the primary colors, if somebody wants to use two primary colors in their building, you know, it's sort of like, it's not allowed.
Yeah, but I
And,
think
you know,
one-
and so
Well, they
I'm
can-
just,
they can-
I'm just,
But
I'm
they still
just
can't
playing
come.
devil's advocate, okay?
I think we just say that anything that's a primary color may also be used as an accent.
Right, I
But
think
accent
so.
colors can't all be used as primary.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what you define. You define the accent
Yeah.
colors, and you say these are only colors that you could use as, you know, sporadically.
yeah, and that's where I put it is it says where canopies on, my suggested language was where canopies, awnings, balconies, porches, decks, doors, windows, shutters, or other architectural elements are not the same color as the primary color, they shall be accent colors. So it kind of
I think though you
That
can
makes sense.
say,
They can be
You
accent
can't fall
colors.
between the cracks.
They not
It's
shall
either-
be, they can be. Because if somebody wants to do a building
shall
that
be.
is very subtle and doesn't use any accent colors, you can have a really nice building that has colors that are all primary.
all from the primary list.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think anyone's
Wait a minute.
intention is
That's why I'm
that.
saying take out the shall
And say
be
may.
an accent color.
No, it says where they, oh, I see what you, yeah, but the list of accent colors wholly includes the list of primary colors.
It has to be clear though, and when you say shall, and you're talking about at the accent list, then it makes it sound like only accent color list things can be an accent. That you have
But
to
when
have
you
one
define
primary
it-
color list, you have to define
I
it.
think you define the
Yes.
accent list, but your primary colors are your primary colors, and you can't say this your trellis, your doors, your windows. There has to be an accent color, because then you can't use a primary color as an accent.
Primary colors.
No, that's what I said. I said, let me read it one more time.
Yeah.
I said, where canopies, awnings, balconies, porches, decks, doors, windows, shutters, or other octogonals are not the same color as the primary color.
Right,
comma,
but you could have.
Then, so you could do a one-color building,
No, but what if you wanted to?
even if you had balconies, porches.
No, but what if you
Yeah.
want a primary color? Use one primary color and another primary color to use as an accent.
You could,
Well, then
because you're
they're-
gonna list what is allowed as an accent color, and in that list are gonna be all of your primary
Right,
colors.
and
Yes.
that's
See
how
what I'm
I
saying?
took it.
That's
But
what.
so
exactly.
the example is the Hardee's building. One of those different shades of brown would have been their primary color. All the others were accent colors. You can use the accent colors wherever you want, but there's a limit. That's once you set into accent colors, that's when we begin to say, the design review board begins to say, okay, now you have the obligation of lining up the number of accent colors with the design of the building.
But I think from a drafting standpoint,
Yeah.
you have to say that these are the primary colors. You use one of those as your primary color. And then you can have your accent colors, you can say, you can use any of the colors from the primary color list or these additional colors as your
As
accent
accent
colors.
And/or,
Yeah.
if you have multiple accents.
And/or, yeah. It
Yeah.
lets you use all of them, but if you put all of the primary colors on the accent color list, you're running into drafting problems.
As
Yes.
I took the suggestion, and this is how I was going to draft it, I was going to do primary colors, that list,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was going to primary colors and all the accent colors in the accent color list.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
the
it's going
intention.
to
Why
be
is that a
cumbersome,
problem?
but
I don't think it is.
Is that a problem? 'Cause that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
So it's clear.
So
I
accent.
think you say you can use any of the colors from the primary color list or any of the colors on the accent color list for accent colors.
I'll describe it a different, I think I'm saying the same thing Sydney
Yeah,
said.
we are.
So the accent color list, let's just say for sake of conversation, has 200 colors.
Mm-hmm.
The primary color list only has about 50 of those 200 colors in it.
But
So
there was
the-
something about how you had drafted the first part. Can I see
Okay.
it?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, just that part.
I get what you're saying.
Sure can't use purple.
We got
An
some
accent
purples in
color.
there.
Thank you.
Very light. And then it becomes lavender. And
We
that's
love
not-
with those purples.
You can use it as an accent color.
It says where all of these things are,
It
they
did.
shall be considered to be an accent color.
If the-
Accent colors, so the accent colors can be, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
Yep,
And then you list them below that.
yep.
Yeah, so there'll be two lists of colors. So the section's gonna get a little bit longer, but
That's okay.
yeah, it's,
It'll be like the plant section.
It's,
yeah, I did that too, sorry.
So do you actually have to list out all
We
the
treat
same
later.
colors again?
well, that's a question. Or do you just
Can't
say
you just
all
say
primary
all
colors
primary
and then list
colors
your accents?
and-
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sydney, whatever you think's the,
Which was what I was suggesting.
yeah, okay,
It's saying the same thing, it's
Yeah.
just more
Yeah.
condensed.
yeah,
That's fine.
Either way, as long as it's clear.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's clear. I think it will help a lot. Because I do think where we've come up in most of our problems is in accent colors. Now, how
And
do
I do think before the next meeting, I probably will, hopefully can get together with Mac and Tim, and we can go over the changes and see if there's ways we can tighten it up, just to help them on a day-to-day practical basis.
That's what I was just thinking, like, I'm thinking, do we have a definition of what primary means?
No.
And I know, you know, but.
Well, no,
I mean,
and actually
if you
that was.
define primary as red, yellow, blue, and
Right.
Well, I don't mean.
those are the
yeah.
primary
Well,
colors.
the
Yeah.
primary color, and that
Yeah,
would be
and-
a primary.
And that was the challenge
Primary
I
color.
think we had is that if, it would be more important to have a definition of primary color if we didn't limit it to one.
Should we just change the word from primary to another word like major or
Principal.
principal or
Principal,
something like that?
principal would be a great.
Principal would be good.
Because primary
That would
colors,
be-
we think certain things, those are the colors that make
Yeah.
all the other colors up.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming, is it in the definitions? There's definitions at the end.
Should be a principal
No.
color, the majority,
Yeah.
major color, which they
So we just go
immediately-
throughout the whole,
So is that the definition then of a principal color of a building? It covers the majority of the building?
Right,
yeah.
because that's gonna be the color that is, and everybody then
Definitions in here somewhere.
realizes one color is gonna cover the majority of the building.
I know this stuff seems obvious to us, but I think it's really helpful in the code when staff starts trying to work with people.
I know that there's a planning dictionary book. Is there an architecture dictionary book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Architectural graphic standards,
Okay.
and it's not quite as expensive as the Munsell Color Book, but not far from it.
That's true.
And there was a Penguin dictionary of architecture terms.
Oh yeah.
Do you have to have a decoder word so you can see it when you open
Architectural graphic standards back before computers used to be
it?
the,
Yeah, decoder.
used to be a sign of you were there when you were asked to, the way they put the book together was different firms were invited to produce one page of it. And some of them
All
were
the,
pretty
all
elaborate.
the special details.
Yeah,
You
some
would
of them
have
are pretty elaborate
Richard
drawings.
Myers wall detail,
Yeah.
wow. Frank Lloyd Wright's wall
One of the
detail.
best books ever
Oh yeah,
produced.
it's incredible.
I don't think enough architects have them.
Yeah. Well, I don't, are they still out there? I don't know.
Might
Did,
make
did,
our
the,
job
did CAD
easier.
kill them? Or
I
are they
don't
still
know.
going? I don't know. Or maybe the
You look at way
2008
the
recession did
contractors
because
put
nobody could
buildings
afford it
together, you
anymore.
go, somebody forgot how to lap water flashing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I have good direction on what you guys want to do with the colors at this point.
I think.
And I guess if everybody wants to think about the tower, and I was going to bring this up, but we are, with the towers, we're getting a little off field of what our original course was, but that's okay. As long as we don't
It's
get too far
architectural.
afield.
I thought architectural was in the.
You're right, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
We had, we were plants, colors, materials. Maybe it
Yeah.
wasn't.
That's the.
Yeah.
That's okay though. We can, as long as we don't get too far off field, I won't.
Maybe we just
Because
say
if you're gonna open it up.
towers of any color.
Let's go to the entire colors.
So, yeah, if a tower is a color, it shall be limited to.
They all do have a color.
They all have a color. Towers shall be a color. If they are a color, they shall be limited to.
Purple.
If I could make one request, individual repainting of a building, where they're not changing the building, they're just changing the color of it. Those are approved at staff level, so any guidance you can give us as far as the primary or principal color and what can be used as accents would be very helpful, because those don't come back to you guys. You'll just drive by them and say, how the heck did that happen?
That's a good point.
And we'll come back to you.
So, Mac, to be clear, the question is, are you asked, should we have something about repainting as distinct from?
Well, it would just.
Well,
fall in
something
the same-
just to, certainly, at least three of you all are architects. So you have some professional design training. We may not have that same design training at staff level. So any guidance you can give us for those repaints that don't come back to this board because they're renovating the whole property, and that would come back.
But I mean, in terms of if it's the same Oh, I see. So if they're changing the colors and
Yeah.
repainting, they don't come back to us?
They don't come back.
No, that's not what it says in code. It says, with the exception of single-family homes, a change to the exterior of a building through new siding, repainting, or similar change shall require review and approval by the corridor review specialist unless the materials and colors have already received DRB approval.
Right.
That's
Him is that review
That's not us.
specialist.
That's not us.
Not
That's-
the
That's not y'all. Y'all are not
Do we
the
want
corridor
that?
review specialist.
I
I don't think we want that.
don't.
No, but that's what we're
I mean,
trying to
if you
make.
define what a principal color is, and it's this number, this number, and this number, and these are accent colors, and you get a color chip and you run down, it either is or it isn't it?
Well, but what he's saying, I think, and I don't think we can dictate this in code. Like, how many times do we look at something and it's got 3 or 4 colors, and you guys say, that doesn't go together, even though they're all approved colors? And I think what Mac is saying is they may not have that expertise
Yeah.
Right.
on staff.
So,
They may or may not.
yeah, one
depending.
option is that
Or
we
one of
change
us may have some
Might just
extreme
go by.
opinions that probably shouldn't be considered.
Purple thing to build.
That's true too, because
Well,
it's
so-
only one person looking at it usually,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So
Tim.
one option is that we
How do we
we
collect-
impose a higher standard and the change of colors is kicked to us.
Mhm.
Sydney, is that in the realm of,
How much would that bring to us now that we don't see today,
Right.
just general ballpark? How often does that?
If they're wanting to use a color that's not on the list, then obviously that'll have to come forward.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
talking about just.
as a
their own
deviation.
approved
When the code was written, repainting was way down the road. So there wasn't probably a lot of thought put into
Right.
that event out into the future.
Now it's a totally.
But we're way out into
different
the future now, so we got lots of buildings that are gonna be repainted on a, periodic basis.
Mac, how much is you guys don't charge them a fee for them just to come in and get their paint approved, but if they were gonna come before this board, it would require a fee, right?
Yeah, they pay a fee depending on the type of application that they,
Oh, okay, so
So
we
you
could
could
set,
set it.
we could set this as a low fee,
Yeah.
presumably. Okay.
I mean, that would be I think, pretty quick and
It
easy
could
to look at.
potentially add to y'all's
That's
work
all
though,
we're looking at.
substantially.
yeah, but I mean, let's say we had 3
Yeah,
of them a month. I mean, we ought to be able to burn through painting pretty quickly
If
unless
it's
it's
just paint
controversial.
colors.
Yeah,
Well-
and if it was extremely controversial, then we're glad it got to us.
Totally, yeah.
Well, the thing about it is we're putting so much effort in keeping all these new buildings, in compliance and within our taste. And we're going to let all these other buildings go by because
Yeah.
they're repainting.
Okay, so I think the sentiment here is that
Good point.
repaints would come before, changing colors would come before the design review board.
And a repaint. Would
And a
that,
repaint.
I would just
yeah.
say it's changing colors, period. Any change to the colors,
of a building?
yeah. Change to the materials, I mean, if someone came in and said, well, I'm gonna brick the exterior of this building, or glue the
Yeah, you
So
could.
funky stone on there that's popping up
So
everywhere.
we just wouldn't change and put design review board instead of corridor review specialist? Wouldn't that be the simplest thing?
What now?
Just substitute design review board instead of corridor review specialist. I mean, that just,
Do you see any issue with that, Matt?
Is that kicking more than
Is
just
that problem?
repaints?
well, it says a change to the exterior of the building through new siding, repainting, or similar change shall require review and approval by the design review board unless the materials and the colors have already received DRB approval. It takes staff out of that whole situation other than guidance.
Well, but even that last phrase, unless the materials are colored, what does that mean?
Where,
It
where,
says-
Well, before it said corridor review specialist, unless we've already given approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is to change it and not be the corridor review specialist, but to be the design review board.
So then
So
wouldn't
you
that
don't-
last phrase drop off?
Yeah, you wouldn't need that.
Yeah.
where are we looking at?
Right here.
it's under the siding paragraph right above
Okay,
where it
I
starts
see.
with colors.
Because I would think, even more to your point, forget color, if they're going from brick to hardy plank or vice versa, I would think we would want to see that.
If
That
they
really
change
changes the
materials,
look
they
of
have
the
to come
building.
through us, right?
Excuse me?
If they add anything or change materials, they have to come through our board?
For
No,
the
no.
outside, if the siding materials are already on the approved list, they would not come back.
See, they don't, that's the point.
I think we need to establish whatever the design review board version of less than minor is, a fee, so that it's very, very modest. But I mean, repainting a large building is tens of thousands of dollars, so it's, you know, I don't know if we have are any of the design review board fees driven by the value of construction? Or are they're all just by the?
They're all fixed numbers.
Okay.
So what's the fee for, let's pick something simple, one building sign?
Oh, sorry, I don't have the new list memorized. It costs more than it used to.
Can
less.
you remember any simple fees?
I mean, typically for a project, I think it's $450.
That's like for, like, the.
Like the
oyster
project
bar
we
just
had,
looked
the
at.
Soldier Canteen.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so-
I think 150, I don't know, it doesn't matter, it's just more
It
about us
needs to be
seeing
at
it.
least as much as a sign permit,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
If
But
we
right
have
now,
any-
they're not paying anything.
Or a sign permit?
No,
Oh, yeah.
for the
Oh.
repainting.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, they're not paying anything, and we're gonna fine them for,
$225 if it's not a project.
That covers
It
everything.
does seem, you know,
Signs.
seems like
reasonable.
reasonable.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
So, just so I have it clear, we're gonna take out, the part of the sentence where it says the review corridor specialist unless the materials and colors have already been approved by DRB. So I'm just gonna take that part out and say
DRB.
that it shall require review and approval by the DRB. And then, under colors, right under the blue part, I'm just gonna take out for all new developments. So it'll be redevelopment as well. I think that'll cover colors coming back before you guys.
That's really good.
Hopefully it won't add to your work too much though.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get a feel for, but not that it I mean, if we need to do it, we need to do it,
We'll
but
just do it fast.
I think that would be quick.
Mhm.
And it really needs to have consistency and
I mean,
That's
we're not
the
looking
only
at like 10 or
thing.
20 a month, are we? What do you guys see?
Offhand, I don't know exactly how many there were. I don't think it's at that level.
We're closer to 5 or 20?
Closer to 5.
Okay,
Well,
Say
it's
a
like Max
meeting,
said, you know, if we
a
don't
month.
do this,
a month.
if we don't do this, we're gonna drive by and we're gonna see this building after, you know, all our pain and efforts here. You know, with
Potentially
new
next door to
buildings,
those
we're just
buildings.
gonna
We
go,
went through
Any
the pain
buildings in the
effort.
corridor, there aren't 60 buildings in the corridor. Are there?
Yes.
of course.
There's a limit on both sides of the road. Drive through
All for
Miramar
Miramar
Beach.
Beach, start counting.
I forget about
But
that
it,
end of the
it shouldn't
street.
be that much. I don't think.
Yeah, thinking about it, what was the,
people do.
I'm trying to remember the name of the Bodacious something or others?
Yes, it
Was-
was pink, yes.
It was, and why did that one come to us? It was a repaint.
They were asking for deviation.
Yeah, if it's a deviation, it does.
Oh, maybe they repainted the building without permission to the wild colors, got
Oh.
caught by code enforcement, then came to us and asked for
Ask for
permission.
deviation.
And they would have had permission, that would have come before us anyway, even without.
That's
the
right,
change,
yeah,
because
so
it was pink.
that's why I was using that as
Yeah.
an example, that
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
have,
We're
would
talking
have been a whole
about,
lot easier if it had come before us.
we're talking about even if it's not a deviation, it
Yeah.
would still come.
Yeah,
She just did it on her own and then decided to ask permission
yes, that's right.
later, ask forgiveness.
Forgiveness,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Which we didn't grant, so she left and went to
She does.
a couple miles in Destin and painted the same color. And Destin loved it.
Permission.
She's not business anymore.
I don't think so. I don't think that building's here anymore.
So
Okay.
where are we with the actual colors? Did we decide to just go with the most, or liberal of the three and put those as the accents? Is that what we?
That was
was-
my
yeah.
assumption.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Ask
And what I
questions
can do,
about this.
Since I've gotten all of y'all's comments, I'll circulate. Hopefully, a good 2 weeks before our next meeting, I'll circulate the changes with the colors so you can all see it in advance. Obviously, not talk to each other, but you'll have a chance to look at it, and then next time give it your stamp of approval. Or if you have minor changes to make, we can make them then.
Okay. And so the only loose end that we'll have to tighten up at that meeting will be if we're gonna deal with the towers.
Yes.
Okay.
How we're gonna do it.
And architectural panel definition, is that,
Yes,
still looking
yes.
for that?
Okay. Is that something I said I would do?
For this architectural definition book, the architectural graphic standards, does anybody have a copy that I could borrow? Maybe there might be a definition in there. Or if you guys could, okay. And then if you can find a definition for principal color, if that's,
Principal color?
if you guys want to just email it to me, or,
Anybody want to volunteer to take that? I kind of. I did the landscape
Florida
list and the
Gerald?
color parts.
You've done enough.
Let's get some other fingerprints on there.
I'll take a look at those two.
okay,
things.
thank you.
Okay.
And if you just want to email them to me,
Okay.
that'd be helpful.
And when you said, Sydney, you're gonna circulate the color changes, you mean, not that, but you mean that language with the
Yeah, I'm
list
just
and the
gonna
accent
go ahead
versus
and-
primary?
Yeah, and draft it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
If you could get that to us ahead, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, is
Things
that-
will slow down at the county.
No, I was gonna, are we still in, is it workshop related?
No.
Okay. Does that bring us to the end of the workshop
I
comments?
think so.
Okay, in that case, any other new business? I know we can't bring up news, I mean, whatever's not advertised, whatever.
I just have a question
Okay.
of clarification. When the existing building brings in a new tenant, and so they come in and they completely put up their new signs, whatever, are they required to do anything with the parking surface, pave it, or anything? What are they required to do if it's an existing building, say it goes vacant, and then they bring in a new tenant, they come in, they put their signs up, they paint, they do whatever? What about the parking surface?
If it's a change of use, they're required to adhere to the landscaping parking standards. And that's in the
Is
change
the
in
paving
use section.
surface included in the parking standards?
Excuse me?
And is the paving surface included in the parking standards?
Are you talking about resurfacing a parking lot? or-
Yes. Like, let's just say what I'm talking about, Panhandle Rental Company, they've come in and they've taken over and they've put up their stuff and their parking lot is dirt and mud, and I'm just wondering, what triggers somebody to have to pave a parking lot they're using?
An application to redevelop that site.
Ugh. All right. So they'd have to tear down the building and build a new building.
Or just a renovation of the exterior that would qualify to come in here.
That might be
That's
something we want to think
that's a
about for
vacant
later.
site. That was vacant land.
But that building was there.
Building was, but it was a separate lot.
I think it's all on one parcel.
It's multiple parcels, because that's why it hadn't come to code enforcement
Trying
yet.
to buy it.
Oh.
But
That'd be interesting.
isn't that a change of use?
It seemed like it to me, but we had the
Yeah,
same
the
question.
property
about
was cleared by the, I don't know, the prior tenant, it wasn't. Panhandle cleared that?
They did clear some.
They knocked some trees down in the corner between it and,
Yeah, they
the
did.
Finch building. There's been a number of different, there used to be a stone place in it. Took the
Yep.
shed down and they took the trees down that were in that whole corner.
Guys, it's not to shut us down too much. It's okay to answer questions, but I think this is a pending code enforcement case, so we might not want to get too much into the details of it.
That was my general question, because that was just an example. That's not the only place I have this question about. Just in general, what triggers them to have to pave a parking lot? That's my
Well,
question.
they should be proud of their parking. You know, I mean, they're providing their clients.
They should be proud of a lot of things.
In this particular case, the change of use in chapter 13 says color paving / parking / walls, and landscaping requirements of these standards shall be met when a site changes use, provided, however, compliance with these standards shall be met in a time period not exceeding 3 years from the use change as provided by Walton County Land Development Code or interpretation by Walton County.
3 years. What's the definition of a change of use?
Well, we have to go to the glossary, and that's probably not here. I mean, the simple definition is a use not similar to what was previously occupying the space.
House and also the little landscaping guy that was
I mean, retail to retail is not a change of use. Retail to a restaurant would be a change of use.
Retail to service,
Excuse me?
retail to service,
Um,
a service office.
We could probably look at that as a change of use.
What was it before? Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments, gripes,
God, don't ask me that.
dreams, hopes?
Yes.
Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank y'all. Disparage question. Just in case you took it that way. I didn't
No, I
mean it that
didn't.
way. I just realized it probably came across that
I did. Actually, I must have missed it because I didn't,
way. Okay,
I didn't
good.
feel offended in the least.
Good.
Back out
I just
of
want people to pay their damn parking lot.